What if pain wasn't something you had to live with? What if your brain held the key to eliminating it without medication? Today, we are unlocking the power of the mind-brain partnership with WellWaveNOW's own Dr. Bob Levine, a leading expert in drug-free pain elimination. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss this. Welcome to WellWaveNOW. We're your portal to actionable wellness insights. We, Breck Rice, Dr. Bob Levine, and I, Tim Daniels, are your wellness catalysts committed to elevating your health, enhancing your functionality, increasing your happiness, and optimizing your performance at every life stage. WellWaveNOW, where timeless wisdom lights your wellness path. Many think of the mind and brain as the same thing, but they are not. And understanding this distinction can be the key to eliminating pain and unlocking better health. Dr. Bob Levine has spent 30 years researching the root causes of neurological and psychiatric illnesses. After nearly a decade of research at the National Institutes of Health, he led groundbreaking studies at Wayne State University and the Henry Ford Health System, where he developed and tested integrative, drug-free approaches to pain elimination and wellness. His clinical trials have proven that these methods are some of the most effective at reducing and often eliminating chronic pain, stress, and related conditions. Today, we dive into what he has discovered, how he helps clients, and most importantly, how you can start applying this today.
So welcome to the show, Dr. Bob. It's great to have you.
Great to be here again with you guys. Talking about what I love, getting people out of pain, drug-free pain with drug-free approaches.
Excellent. Well, before we dive into your actual techniques, there's that comment that Tim stated earlier that there is a difference between the brain and the mind. So you've got to explain that a little more.
So it really depends on somebody's philosophy, somebody's interpretation, but really, does anybody really know what the mind is? That's the question. And I don't know that. So the way I look at it is, the mind is the controller, the ultimate controller of the whole being. And the brain is the electrochemical machinery that takes directions from the mind, and the mind tells the brain what to do. And there's a lot of evidence for that, anecdotal evidence. It's really hard to nail it down and prove that, except that we know that people who use their mind to direct their brain to deliver certain results, the brain will do that. So that's how I distinguish the two. It's really important that the mind speaks to the brain. The mind gives directions to the brain. The mind tells the brain what it wants to accomplish. And also, the mind doesn't have to know, our minds don't have to know how the brain's going to get the job done. Because we're studying that all the time, and we continue to study, and we'll be studying it for the next 1,000 years probably, right? So the mind controls the brain, and I believe that people need to understand how to use their mind to talk to the brain, to direct the brain, to get the results they really want.
So would looking at it from your being, then, your mind being your being connected to what some people consider your spirit, whereas the brain is actually an organ that's doing a function, just like the heart, the kidneys.
That's the way I look at it. It's a phenomenal organ. It's the number one that controls nearly everything. It has its autonomic functions, which are kind of out of control of the mind. Heart rate, breathing, those things are automatically done, although the mind can impact that in a huge way. But then there's the mind-directed activities of the brain. So that simple idea is so important for people to realize, because otherwise the mind is talking and saying, gee, I'm in trouble. Oh, I don't know if I'll ever get out of pain. I don't know if I'll ever sleep well again. I always have anxiety. Why is it that I can't, just dump the anxiety? Why am I stressed? Why are my relationships aren't working? That's what the mind is saying, instead of telling the brain, hey, look, brain, we need to work together to get things to work the way we want them to work in every area of life.
Yeah, I'm glad you went there, because that was my next question is, why is that distinction crucial for pain elimination? Because you're now saying, well, the mind has to tell the brain what you want it to accomplish?
In general, yeah, the mind, it's not like, okay, brain, I want you to, slow down the frequency of nerve impulses to this muscle. And no, it's not like that detailed. It's more like, hey, Dr. Bob told me that this muscle is in excess contraction and it's not letting go. And he taught me some maneuvers, some simple, effective muscle release maneuvers to get the muscle to let go. So brain, we're going to do these movements. And at the end of these movements, my muscle is going to be absolutely relaxed and released and back to normal muscle length instead of being excessively contracted like it was before. So it's a general command to the brain, telling the brain exactly what we want to accomplish in terms of lay language. And then the brain will go ahead and do it.
So on this, Bob, so that's good. So as it's the code. It's the code. You're giving the coding to the computer, to work and execute the program. That's one way of putting it. Back to my old IT days from long ago that is still there. But I spent 23 years over that IT world, so I guess it's still kind of ingrained into me. But that said, are you teaching the brain? Because often people have this concept of neuroplasticity, the brain changing and learning new things as it goes and adapting. We've talked about that before, that as being key to maybe stroke recovery and learning new things in that regard. But but other people see that as being central to even the pain world. Do you see that? Is neuroplasticity important to this? And give your own definition of it, of that, or is this something separate from neuroplasticity?
I consider it all linked together. So if somebody has a stroke and their right side paralyzed, they need to train their mind to speak to the brain so that the brain can understand that we want to get this right side working again, and that's going to involve neuroplasticity or regaining nerve function that got interrupted and it needs to be rebooted. We don't exactly know what's going on there, but to me, it's still the mind telling the brain what we want it to do. And I deal a lot with future visioning. Like, what's the future vision that somebody?
You got to hold off on that a little bit.
Okay.
Don't hop into your full approach yet. We're not quite there yet.
Okay.
I know you want to helping the people and showing them the way.
Okay.
But,
so the mind talking to the brain, telling the brain what results we want to produce, whatever the results we want are.
Do you have any studies or statistics that show? Because we know you're a pain expert and a brain research expert. So what studies or even just success stories that would show that linking, right, of the mind influencing pain?
The only thing I can speak about are the results that I've gotten with thousands of people, because I've collected data from clinical studies showing that when I do in large groups, actually in-person large groups, without even putting my hands on anybody, just teaching from the front, teaching from the stage, demonstrating what people need to do, giving them the tools that they need, the videos, the audio tracks to listen to, guided meditation audio tracks and other audio tracks to listen to. And showing that, close to 50% of all chronic pain conditions were eliminated in those clinical studies, and people were off of drugs in a multi-session group program. So that data is solid. It's clear. It was done under clinical trial conditions for the most part. And it shows that, these approaches that I use, which are directly using the mind's ability to control the brain and tell the brain what to do. Again, and along with the techniques that I teach people, that's really what gets the job done. And so there's clinical data. That's one thing I would say.
And I think that's key because why that's key. So you often talk to some of our guests about the science and the data and the research behind it. There are one side of people approach things differently, they're understanding differently. Some people will take it and say this makes a lot of sense, let's just do it. Other people will say, hey, this sounds like voodoo, Bob. Where's the where's the proof that your voodoo works?
So where's the beef? Well, so it's in the data for sure, and also it's in the experience that somebody has. So my goal when I work with people individually, whether it's over the internet, which I've had great success over the internet, doing video conference calls, demonstrating, moving back from the camera, demonstrating what they need to see, watching them do it. It can all be done over Zoom. It's a little bit faster, maybe not even a little bit. It could be a lot faster when I'm in person with somebody, because I can actually, I can put my hands on muscles while I'm doing certain techniques, using a technique that I call single finger automatic pattern interruption technique. That's kind of like the umbrella. We'll talk about that later, I think. But it's important for me when I'm treating anybody or helping any client, they need to feel good and feel benefit in the first session and in the first part of the first session. Because if they don't, the likelihood that they're going to be excited about continuing goes way down, because they've tried so many things. People in chronic pain, whether it's 3 months, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, I've worked with people who've been in pain, whether they've had surgery or not. People have had surgeries I've worked with and gotten them out of pain when the surgeries did not work the way they were thought to work. It's really important that they've tried so many things that if they don't get benefits right away, they're going to say, it's just another one of these techniques that's not going to work. And also I use what I call a multimodal technique, which
Yeah, there you go, Bob. I know you want to get that. We got, and we will. But I think there are a couple of things that are still kind of key for the listeners to hear before we hop into the approach, which is very, very critical. But one of them, what you sort of touch upon there, people will still say I guess, we're starting to curb the opioid epidemic out there with ramifications, but you start to get into the range of pain manifestations that you've dealt with. Give a little bit more on what you think, what this all applies to. Does it work? What have you worked this? Is it the stroke from pain? Does it work with neuropathy? Do you have neuropathy? Et cetera, et cetera. What's kind of the scope of application of this approach, Bob?
I mean, there's almost not a single pain condition that I've not been able to help that I can remember. I had one challenging patient with neuropathy. There was a challenge, and that's all I'm going to say about that. That's one patient, one client, and I would say that when people do what I ask them to do, which is really quite simple, and they stay with what I ask them to do, that they're going to get better. They're going to get better. They're going to get help. Doesn't matter if it's plantar fasciitis, whether it's a shin splints, whether it's tight hamstrings or quadriceps, or low back is a monstrous problem. Hips are a big issue for people. Headaches. I mean, the majority of people have a forward head posture like this for a lot of reasons. And I go, and almost I would say way more than 90% of the clients that I take on have forward head postures. Doesn't matter what age they are. They can be, a cool 20-year-old with a forward head posture, because all of the looking down in the digital world, and the car seats and the chairs are all not supporting an upright posture, head over the shoulders. That leads to neck pain and headaches and all kinds of crazy symptoms. So I know how to help that stuff by helping people get their head back over their shoulders, relaxing the muscles, other techniques which we'll talk about later.
One more thing.
What I want to say,
go ahead.
You brought up the opioid crisis, and so one of the key things is some of the tragedies are people who've never taken an opioid, never taken a pain medication, get injured, and for whatever reason, acute injury, and they start taking pain meds, not realizing the potential hazard of it, and then they get addicted, and it's just so sad. So that's a whole nother issue. But I had one individual in a group program I did years ago, which he was on disability. He was addicted to opioids, just a mess. He could barely, and he was a big, strong guy, and he couldn't do anything in terms of working out or moving around. And I was running a 10-session program, one session each week. After 3 sessions, the guy came back in and said, "Hey, I always take feedback. How's it going? Who's anybody pain free yet? Who's pain free? Who's still struggling? What are you struggling with?" And this gentleman raised his hand. He said, "I just want you to know, Dr. Bob, that I'm completely out of pain. I am no longer taking any opioids. I was addicted to them, and I'm back moving logs and doing all this other physical stuff that I was doing beforehand."
So one thing, that brings the point. So I know you're doing a lot of work directly with people and with consumers. But I think one thing that we ought to consider and toss around here a little bit is many people are going to their primary care and to other people before they get to somebody like you, because they've tried so many other things. So how can we help you, and how can people help you and get the word out to? Should it be? You think providers are ready to listen to this? You think providers are ready to listen to your approach so that it should go to them first, or we just have to wait till people have tried that and they start looking for other alternatives? Well,
I don't take insurance, so that's a big impediment. Some people, no matter how much money they have, they could be incredibly wealthy, 2-3 houses. If it's not covered by insurance, they're not going to jump. Mm-hmm. And it's really too bad. It's really sad, because these people need help, and they're not investing in themselves, even if they're paying a large copay and over and over and over again, taking their time. Treatment after treatment after treatment, treatment failure after treatment failure after treatment failure. When I say treatment failure, things that are just not getting the job done 100%. They're not unlocking the problem. That's what we want to do. We want to be pain free. We don't want to be managing pain. Like, oh yeah, I got from a 9 to a 7 to a 5 to a 3. Now I'm at 3 and I feel much better than when I was at a 9. However, I'm still in pain. I still have problems moving around. It's still limiting and it's messing with my personality. It's messing with my relationships, because when people are in pain, it affects all areas of life. And I know that from my personal experience because I was in chronic pain for a long time. Anyway, so it's really important that people invest in themselves, realize that they're worthy of it. They're worth getting the results. And they're going to have to let go of some of the skepticism. When people try modality 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 different modalities. I had to do more than 10 in all the alternative realm to get out of my pain when nothing was working in the conventional care realm. But they're just going to have to understand that it's really important to think that, okay, I tried all that stuff. That's fine. I'm trying this different thing. This is a new thing. It's not any of these other ones. And this one is going to work. That gets into the future visioning. So every client that I work with, I have to help them understand how they've corrupted their view of their own future by how their mind is thinking
Okay,
about
Bob. Okay, Bob.
it. I don't know.
Can't hold you back anymore. But so it's
We're just going to have to jump into it, Tim, and
That's right.
have you tell us, Dr. Bob, what are the core principles of your methodology and to eliminate pain? So what are the core principles?
Well, let's just ease into that from where we were. People want insurance covered stuff, and if it's not covered by insurance, they're not even going to think about it. They might have hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank even, and they're just not going to shell out that money because they think their insurance should cover it, and they'll continue to do the insurance covered care thing. And we know for a fact that insurance covered care for chronic pain, for instance, is ineffective. Otherwise, you wouldn't have 100 million plus people in the country in chronic pain.
See, this is classic Dr. Bob. When we want Dr. Bob to talk about this other stuff, he's going to leap into his core approach. When we say, Dr. Bob, tell us your core approach, he's going to leap back in the other stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Bob.
Okay, here we go. So I have to help people resolve that conundrum that they're not taking care of themselves. They're not investing in themselves. And the reason why they're not is because they have all kinds of stories about why they should be able to get conventional insurance to cover it. Or a lot of people have hidden inner feelings and thoughts about themselves, like, this can't work for me. Nothing can work for me. I just have to struggle through this. I have to put up with this pain, for instance. And so I work with people on first transforming their thinking. In the first 15 minutes of any session, the first session, they're going to understand that their thought processes are not helping them, because they're thinking, hey, I have people tell me, yeah, I've tried everything. Really? Well, we haven't worked together. Have you really tried everything? I don't say that, but they come to me saying, I've tried everything. Nothing works. If I say I've tried everything and nothing works, how can anything possibly work? I've created my future view. I've tried everything and nothing works. So why are we here talking? Why are you here with me? So I teach them to understand how the language they use, the way they speak about themselves, and their view of themselves and their view of their future, which I call future visioning, right? The true future vision is, I want to be pain-free, instantaneously, high performance action, no drugs involved, but it can't happen. And I've never had it like instantaneous. Could happen in 5 minutes though. I've done that for certain people, where they've had a certain pain and I've been able to relieve it in 5 minutes. That's I don't know how many is it? It's less than 5%, but it's there. It happens. I've had these anecdotal situations where I've been able to put the right input at the right time, the right way, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what happened? The pain's gone. But the first 15 minutes is let's figure out how to think about this. Okay. Up until this point, I've tried many things. None of those have worked. And yet I am open to the possibility that the next thing I try with you, Dr. Bob, or whoever it is, the next thing I try, it's going to work. It's going to be great. And then I'm going to be out of pain really fast. People don't think like that when generally speaking, when they've been on a road that has led them to suffer with chronic pain for a long time. So the language component is huge. The future vision, the language, I have what I call language rules of the future vision. I'm not going to get into those. It takes a while to explain, but there's a way to speak about our lives that allows us to create open space freedom for something new and different to happen than what was happening up until the point where they start with me.
So if they don't do, so help us understand, Bob, why that's so important. If they're not open to it, well, they don't say, hey, this next thing could work, but they still try it anyway. Does the odds of it working go down, or do you think they won't stay with it? So why is that mind brain partnership, and that future visioning so important to the process they work with you?
Well, in my view, if I don't get in there in the first session and make something happen, then somebody who's skeptical in the beginning is going to remain skeptical. Most of the people who come to me are skeptical, on some level. They have some skepticism, like, and I talk big, I talk like I can do this thing. I know I can do it. I've done it thousands of times. So when you talk like that to people, sometimes they go, I can't believe you're saying this. You're just going to get this to happen like that, and it's going to work. So most people are skeptical anyway. Even if before I've said a word, they're coming in skeptical. So I need to make something happen right away. So I want them to experience. So I make sure they have an experience of something in the first session for sure. And once they experience some change, it's like, okay, change. Wow, change. Change can happen. I never felt this before. I have some relief somewhere. It could be as simple as teaching somebody how to bend over and touch their toes to relieve back pain. I've had that happen over and over again. Wow, I have instantaneous. I mean, all I did was you taught me how to bend over at the waist and which muscles to focus on and how to do this thing, and nice and slow, and then breathe, and all of a sudden my back feels a lot better. Wow. Hey, yeah, that was 5 minutes. You want to keep going? Yeah, let's keep going. So I think it's important for any practitioner who's dealing with their clients to make sure that something beneficial happens fast in the first session. And so once somebody feels some benefit, and they understand that they want to think a certain way to free up the ability for them to make the changes that they want and need to make, that happens really quickly. And that's when skepticism goes by the wayside. Future visioning kicks in, true future visioning, what they really want, eliminating those corrupt future visions. Like the corrupt future vision would be, I don't have what it takes to do this. I don't believe you. I'm going to be in pain for a long time. It's just, I'll never get out of pain. That's a corrupt future vision. I'll never get out of pain. You can help me? I don't.
Right. Beautiful. So before we get on to other parts of your kind of core approach there, the future visioning let's stay with that a little bit here. Does it have application outside of this pain elimination world?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So what have you seen? How with someone for what?
Well, if somebody's anxious all the time, they want to get out of being anxious, or they're stressed all the time, or they sleep terribly, they have sleep disturbance, or they have headaches. The future visioning is critical with each one of those any diagnosis. I don't deal with diagnosis. I deal with symptoms. It doesn't matter to me what somebody's diagnosis is. I know the people have been examined and imaged and imaged. That's fine. I'm happy that they got all that work done. I say, okay, what are your symptoms? How are we going to address those? And all those symptoms that I mentioned, whether it's headaches or sleep disturbance or anxiety or stress, the future visioning component is vital. I say that if somebody's not engaged in the practice of learning how to future vision and establish a true future vision for what they want, it's going to delay their ability. It's going to at least delay their ability to get better, to improve.
So with that, so I lied, but no, I didn't lie, because we're staying on future visioning here for a second. So I didn't lie because it's a follow-up question on future visioning that came to mind here, and now my brain is now going to articulate what came to mind because I'm telling it to do so.
When your mouth is moving, that's really good.
Sure, we want people to reach out to you and to engage with you, and you've got some education and other things that you've got available. That said, a couple of tips for people, just as you said, if they don't know how to create that future vision and they want to say, I want to start on this a little bit, but I can't call Dr. Bob right away for whatever reason. What tip would you give them to start them on the path of at least being able to have a chance of creating a good future vision?
Wow. Well, they have to understand. Well, I would say, take a look at how you've been thinking about your situation. Examine your thought patterns and what they've been. My whole technique, I have to go into a little bit, is called automatic pattern recognition an interruption system. People need to recognize their automatic patterns of thinking, their automatic patterns of movement, their automatic patterns in all areas of life. And what I teach people is, what automatic patterns do you have that are dysfunctional for you? And then I teach them how to interrupt those patterns after we recognize them. And so I think, and so I know that's a short explanation. I just think people, when they go to whatever practitioner they're working with, they want to ask them, I'm stuck here. This is what I've got. I've been stuck here. I'm still stuck here. How is what you're doing going to get me unstuck? They're asking the question, how are you going to help me interrupt my automatic pattern that has me locked here? Because there's an automatic pattern. Maybe if they can remember what I'm saying, or they watch the video again, they can go to their practitioner and say, hey, look, I'm in some kind of automatic pattern. I'm stuck here. How does your technique help interrupt the automatic pattern that has me stuck here? And it's a challenge for practitioners to answer that question, because they're not used to dealing with people who might even ask that. And yet they should be able to say, okay, I use acupuncture. So the acupuncture does this and does this, and your automatic pattern has your, unbalanced neuromuscular and energetic system a certain way. So this is how I'm going to do it. And and then I could ask the question as a client or a patient, and how many sessions might that take? When will I see some benefit and know that this can be working? And for me, if it's an acupuncturist, for instance, it's got to happen within the first 3 sessions. Something serious has to happen, and it has to have lasting effect. The problem with automatic patterns is this. So like I teach proper walking, for instance, the average person takes between 10,000, the average person takes between 30,000 and 50,000 repetitive movements every day. And so if somebody goes to a practitioner and the practitioner treats them with whatever technique, and these are expert practitioners, they've been trained, whether it's a physical therapist or an acupuncturist, chiropractor, massage therapist, it doesn't matter. They're expertly trained, they know what they're doing, and they do their work with the client. I feel somewhat better. This is pretty good. Then they go back to life and they start with these 30 to 50,000 repetitive movements every day. So within a day, 2, 3, 4, it's likely that the chronic dysfunctional pattern has kicked in and taken them back into the symptoms that they had, whether it's sleep disturbance or anxiety or fatigue or chronic pain. So, how do people interact? People need to understand this language, I would say, and be able to go to their practitioners, whoever they're working with, and ask these questions like, hey, look, I'm stuck in this automatic pattern, because it's the same thing happening over again. It's got to be automatic. It's the same thing. Every day is the same. You treat me, I've been coming to you, you treat me, you've helped me for a few days, and then I'm back seeing you another week later, and I've seen you 40 times. And I'm still in the same pattern. So is there anything that we can do differently? Or is there anybody that that you could refer me to that can help unlock this pattern so that I don't have to, feel good for a few days and then start feeling not so good. Then I have to go back to see some practitioner again.
It's a little bit like trying to see the forest through the tree, right? You're right up against that pain. It's right in your face. It's hard to know the right question, right, to ask a provider, because you're just dealing with that immediate acute need to get out of pain. Now, you've alluded, Dr. Bob, to some of the conditions that you've had experience treating. Let's bring that into some real life success stories. What types of conditions have you had success in working with?
Well, recently I've had the privilege of treating some elderly patients who've been on walkers and walking with canes. And because I have a free program called, and maybe we can get that in the notes, I have a free program called How to Walk Your Way Out of Chronic Pain. Just by teaching these people how to walk properly and I learned recently with working with some of these older folks, a strategy for teaching them how to walk in a way that would give them the confidence that they could actually, walk without their cane and walker, without falling, without hurting themselves. So I changed my strategy. I have a different strategy for working with the older folks who are, let's say, above 75 years old. Or in Tim's case, above 72. Just joking too. So that I've gotten just recently, 2 people who are off their canes and walkers, and they're walking all over the place, but they're using the step-by-step instructional strategy that I taught them. I had a client recently who had pain for like 2 years, and they had hip and leg and shoulder pain. The whole right side was messed up, and it was an in-person session that time, so I did in person with them. And the other two were over the internet. The people got off their walkers, and but she had a lot of troubles. And I mean, in the one session, I completely eliminated all of it. It was gone, and I showed her what to do to help her continue to do the movement routines I showed her how to do, and the effective muscle release, and it's everything. I'm teaching proper movement. I have neuromuscular movement re-education routines, which don't involve hands on the muscles. It's just, how do we move properly? What are we focused on? And then I call it effective muscle release. And I've also called it stretching with effective muscle release, because I teach people how to modify conventional stretching to make it a lot more effective, let's say. And, in that technique, the hands go on the muscles while the muscles are in contraction and relaxation release, so that, they can actually feel the muscle contract instantly. Whereas if they don't have their hand on the muscle, they can't sense contraction. So they put the hand on the muscle, and they can try this at home. Just, go like this. And, I ask people, when do you feel this deltoid muscle contract? About now. They usually go from 60 to 90 degrees. I think I feel it now. Yeah. Okay. Put your hand right there. Okay. Now do the same thing. Oh, right there. You can see it popping my fingers off. So they think, I got the contraction, and now I'm going to move. It's still contracted. I'm going to bring it back down. I don't have to move it all the way up. Just bring it back down, still contracted, and then relax and release. Let's
now
go.
you talked and focused a lot on pain, and I know that's what you're an expert at. But what about other conditions? Sleep, you mentioned.
Sleep is easy. Yeah, sleep. I mean, when I say sleep is easy, people go, "You're out of your mind, man. I haven't slept good in 15 years." But really, people who have difficulty sleeping fall into one of like four categories. Either they can't go to bed because the bed represents, that they're not going to get a good night's sleep, so they got to exhaust themselves in front of the TV or computer or something then they drag themselves to bed. They go to sleep. Other people get into bed, feel great, but they wake up in the middle of the night, and as soon as they wake up, they go, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble now," right? And that's where future visioning comes in. People don't wake up at 3 a.m, and go, "Oh, wow, I just woke up, and now I'm just gonna, maybe I'll go to the bathroom."
Unless you're Tim, he does his Wordle and then he goes back to sleep.
And then I sometimes do the spelling bee, and then I go back to sleep.
There you go. Well, if you have a method that works like that, that's great. Most people say, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble." Their future vision is corrupted by how bad is it going to get, how tough is it going to be tomorrow, how bad is my day going to be, how am I going to feel? It's going to be bad news. But they don't wake up and go, "Wow, I think I'll just roll over and go back to sleep." Wonderful. People don't wake up and think that way. But once they understand about future visioning, they understand they can reset the future vision and then go back to sleep really fast. So
pain, sleep, what else?
Anxiety, fatigue, for sure.
Anxiety, fatigue.
Yeah, high blood pressure, because there's a lot of factors that contribute to high blood pressure. I mean, I had one gentleman on a networking call. I taught the proper walking technique. I have the 7 steps of proper walking, and that's in that free program called How to Walk Your Way Out of Chronic Pain. He just listened to me, and he incorporated what I said. I didn't even demonstrate anything. He went out and did it. He came back on the next networking call, and he said, I tried what you said because I've got high blood pressure, and I've been walking all week like this, the way you told me how to do it, and my blood pressure is 30 points down, and it's awesome.
So if you took on this, because you also do the future vision you've talked about, how important that is, and that's what we kind of start with and want to focus on, is that really mind-brain partnership. But you also talked about the effective muscle release, but now you're also talking about proper ways of walking. So what when you look at these things and compare it to other things, to standard physical therapy, you also said I give a different way of stretching, standard physical therapy, and I forget what there's a kinesiology that really talks about movement. Is your methodology a blend of these things with the future vision on top of it, or what would you say is different in what you're doing than people are saying, "Hey, I've tried I went to kinesiologist, I went to physical therapist, I went to Pilates on the machines and getting stretched or what have you. I went to yoga and they gave me stretching." And so
then they came to see me.
Yes.
God stuff. Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things I wanted to bring up is one of the first things I do is I want the client to know that they need to follow the WBK rule. They got to want it. W is for wanting. They got to want it, and everybody wants the result, right? So that's an easy one. B stands for belief. They got to believe that it can happen. A lot of people break down there because they don't really deep down believe that it's going to happen, whether they've tried a million things and nothing's worked, or they think they're not even worthy of having it work or undeserving of it. There's all kinds. I have to deal with all of that inner hidden self-inadequacy and I deal with that too from the point of view of that's what drives the corrupt future vision. And then, but the K, WBK, K stands for knowing. They got to know that it's going to work beyond a shadow of a doubt. They just know that it's going to work. The next thing I do, I don't have to know how it's going to work. I just know it's going to work. And that's basically helping augment the true future vision. I want it. I believe it. I know it. Let's go to work. Let's make it happen. But the thing is that number one, these other modalities, unfortunately, I think physical therapists don't get enough time with patients, right? And I think almost every other kind of practitioner that I've brought up here and beyond, they don't understand the language of the true future vision. They're not talking to their clients while they're working on it and saying, hey, this is going to provide this is going to provide that. You're going to feel better. You're going to go here. You're going to go there. And you're going to do these things that I give you, and it's going to work great for you. I don't know. Some of these techniques may not be that effective in the first place, but you got to have compliance. If somebody wants to give somebody, a client, things to do at home, which has to be done, because if people don't do things outside of the treatment, outside of the treatments, they're going to go back to their automatic patterns, and it's just not going to work. And that's why a lot of people who take physical therapy, they're given stuff to do. A lot of people don't do that stuff because they get lazy or they think it's not going to work, whatever it is. And then they think, oh, my physical therapist isn't any good, or my acupuncturist isn't any good, or my chiropractor isn't any good, when they're not doing what they were asked to do. So it's got to be a combination of, teaching the client and then how to think about what's going to happen, how to know that what's going to happen is going to be effective for them, and then explaining how what they're asked to do at home in between sessions is vital. It's absolutely critical. And if they don't do that, then, it's not going to work.
So before we move on to our next section, I wanted to take just a moment to share something that's personally helped me and has helped many, many others with their own health and well-being. It's pure Himalayan Shilajit. And according to independent studies and PubMed.gov, this supplement has about 85 to 87 of the 102 trace minerals your body needs to just survive and live. It improves energy level, enhances cognitive function, supports healthy aging while boosting your immune system. It's the USA's #1 brand of pure Himalayan Shilajit by Better Alt, available at the betteralt.com. That's betteralt.com. GNC and other fine retailers will leave a link in the show notes. You can get it also at the TikTok shop as well.
Okay.
All right, back to the show.
All right, thanks, Brett. But let's move into, with all this, so we've got your effect, we've got your walk-away pain. People going to come take a look at. We always put in notes how they can reach out. People can reach out to you directly on other items. They can engage with you. People can engage with you in our Facebook page, the Healthcare Disruptors, and put things in there to reach out to you and have a conversation as well, which you encourage. And Breck will put that in the chat for our for our listeners and the audience here as well. But with the time we've got here, let's give folks a little more actions they could take themselves today. And you talk a little bit of what they could do to engage with their provider if they're in the pain, but let's just say they're just having the sleep issue or the stress issue. What's one action you would encourage people to take today? Could be the same one to get started on that reprogramming of the brain and really starting to engage that mind-brain partnership.
I would say that before going to bed, every person should be taking a minute or two or whatever they want to construct their true future vision, what they really want. What is it that they really want without the constraint of having to know how to do it? What do we really want? I don't know how to do XYZ. I want XYZ. So mind and brain work together. We're focused on this is what we want, and this is what's coming into our life. And maybe it won't come into our life overnight. I've had people get themselves out of pain overnight by just saying that every night. I want to be pain-free in the morning. Brain, make sure I'm pain-free in the morning. And then at some morning, they wake up pain-free, and they're doing those things I ask them to do as well. But future visioning before going to bed is really vital. Maybe it's a relationship that's not working well. Okay, before going to bed, my true future vision is that my relationship with this person works really well. We communicate well. I listen to them. They listen to me. And we get along so much better than we ever have. And just whatever we want. It touches on future visioning, touches on every aspect of life, relationships, communication, job, money, everything, health, body health. So when people understand about the future visioning process, and I'm developing a whole course around that, the future visioning process, that's what I would do. That's what I would tell people to do before they go to bed at night. Focus on what they really want. And if somebody is a fan of religion, then they can use prayer. Hey, I want to accomplish this. If somebody's a universalist, or they believe in the beauty of human beings, and okay, I want all my team people, all the people around me to help me, whatever it is. But the future vision is simply, what do we really want, especially what we don't know how to do, and we want it anyway.
So speaking of religion, there's a guy I've often listened to named Andrew Womack out of now in Colorado. But he always just say, what do you do between the amen and the there it is? And so he has a whole methodology and approach about give me thanks, staying on there. So in your approach, when you talk about the portion and you say, hey, people do what you do, they do what you tell them to do, and they come out like the one guy did, and he's out of pain portion. And but you get them. They go through you. They work with you. They get that immediate approval, and just like that immediate progress to say this is starting to work. They go from that 10 to that 3, and like you said before, and then they stall. If they stall, everybody runs a challenge. And how do you help them, and how would you recommend someone then stay motivated to say, I'm going to get from that 3 to 0? How do they keep going?
Yeah, well, when somebody, in my experience, if somebody goes from a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 down to a 2, 3, 4, they're on track. They're going for it.
Yeah.
And the neuromuscular system, from a pain standpoint, unravels pretty fast. The pain can disappear really quickly. It doesn't happen necessarily in the first session or overnight. I've had it happen that way, but that's my objective. That's my true future vision for everybody who I talk to, whether it's online, or whether it's in person, is this session is the session. This session works, 100% effective, 0 pain at the end, 0 pain for the rest of your life. You never need to see me again.
So nobody hits a sticking point with you, Bob.
What's that?
Nobody hits us. That's a whole wrestler.
Oh, there's.
I can't get my weight down. I got to do something different here to get below that sticking point. So nobody hits a sticking point with you, Bob.
Oh, if they hit the sticking point, it's kind of on them. But I'm talking about my true future vision, and I have them to align with mine, especially in terms of pain. Now, if it's weight and somebody wants to lose 50 pounds, it's not happening overnight. However, we want to ask, what's the pattern? What's the dysfunctional automatic pattern that has them trying this, that, and the other thing, and it hasn't been working. What's
right?
Going?
They get that it's working. You took them from that 10 where they really crawl out of their skin, it's down to 3, and they're saying, Bob, I just can't get beyond that 3. I want that 0. What does that happen? If it does happen, what do you do with them?
Well, that's where the health detective comes in. But what I do with people, for sure, if they're plateaued, they need to demonstrate to me that they're doing what I ask them to do the way I ask them to do it. So if I'm online with somebody, we'll back off from our cameras, and they will demonstrate what I'm asking them to do, and I'll be able to tell right away whether they're doing it or not. And I'll guarantee my work. If somebody does everything I ask them to do, and they're not getting out of pain, okay. I'll guarantee that I can get them out of pain, and I'll work with them until I do. But so I've had that case. When I was doing these in-person group programs, we had anywhere from 50 to 200 people at a time over the variety of programs that I did. And I would always take feedback. So after the first session, beginning of the second session, there was always a couple people who were out of pain. They did what I asked them to do. It was simple. They interrupted the dysfunctional pattern and feeling really great. After session 2 and 3, more and more people were getting out of pain. But after session 5, it's like, okay, we still have like 30% of you who are in pain still. So I would bring somebody up, and I would have them demonstrate to the whole group what they're doing. And then so they would demonstrate it, and I'd say, okay, you're not doing that correctly. If you were doing it correctly, it could work for you. So then I would, and that's where I learned how to put my hands on muscles as being so important, because I'd have somebody with chronic low back pain, and I would just, first of all, people are doing everything too fast, too vigorously. When I teach neuromuscular movement reeducation, I have to train people to move really slowly and smoothly, and if they don't do that, if they move fast, it's not going to work. You get no neuromuscular reeducation that way. But anyway, so I put my hand on certain muscles and I say, okay, now contract them up, raise your leg up or whatever I'm having them do. The muscle contracts. You feel that? Yeah. Okay. And they put their leg down and the muscle would release. Do that a couple times, because I only teach people how to do 2 or 3 movements maximum. That's it. No more than that. Because it's about re-education. It's not about endurance. It's not about speed. It's not about high performance. It's about, how little energy can I put into this, and like how much new awareness can I develop? So then I have the person get up and walk across the stage and go, yeah, I'm out of pain. I said, yeah, okay. So you do this at home, every day the way I ask you to do it, and you'll stay out of pain. So, people need to be performing things properly. And so I can evaluate people and tell exactly when they're doing something incorrectly. And,
For our listeners, Dr. Bob, that want to take this further, I'm going to invite them to join the Facebook group, WellWaveNOW, Healthcare Disruptors, where Dr. Bob is a member of the group, and he can, apply some of his amazing techniques with you through the group. So again, we'll put a link in the show notes here for the Facebook group. Please join that. Also be sure to grab Dr. Bob's free guide. He is Walking Away from Pain. So that free guide link will be in the show notes as well.
And Breck, if you can put in drbobtalks.com, that's my digital business card, which has my full background. And the other thing that I didn't really say was that the most important part of what I do is that I use a multimodal approach for every client. Like, there's a language-based component. There's a neuromuscular reeducation component. There's an effective muscle release component. There's a guided meditation, future visioning component. And so what I would say to people, for part of my closing, is if you're going to see a practitioner and they're using a single modality, what I've learned in all the clinical studies I've done, a single modality is not that likely to produce a phenomenal result for a majority of people. So the practitioner's got to be talking to you in a certain way. They got to be doing something in a certain way. They got to be asking you to participate in home activities of some sort. And so you need a multimodal approach. And I use no less than 4 or 5 modes of input every session with every client. So
excellent. Well, Dr. Bob, this has been so incredible, this discussion, and your research and methodology is truly a game changer. So thank you for sharing that insight with us. And if anyone is struggling with pain, you need to reach out to Dr. Bob. Again, we'll leave all that contact information in the show notes for today's episode. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and I hope our audience stays curious and keeps exploring and take those very first steps towards a pain-free life. And always remember, wellness, it's in you.